class, as well as the instructions for the assessment, the remaining assessments. Okay, so and you guys has already joined the groups as I asked you guys after the test last week. So before we wrap up today's class, you will know the turn for your presentation, which will be the first group. The first half of the group will go on week 7, and the remaining will go on week 8. Okay. So basically, today's class will be a very quick one. Okay. So which I am going to brief you guys about the assessment as well as the topic for today. And after that, you guys will have to complete the usual weekly task that is available on Google Classroom. The two tasks is very simple, two quizzes, 5 questions each for you to complete. And then after you finish that weekly tasks, you guys have to sit down together with your group members and prepare yourself for the first group assessment, which is the oral presentation. Okay, so basically, this week, this oral presentation will focus on the topic. I will try to relate it as much as we can with the assessment later. All right. So first, before I look into the topic, I am going to show you guys the instructions or the task for the assessments. All right. So let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, madam.
All right, good. Okay, group assessments. Um, there, as I mentioned, there are 3 group assessments that you have to complete until before you finish up with this course. All right, so all these 3 assessments are interrelated. So whatever you decide to do for your oral presentation later will be discussed also in the remaining 2 assessments. So you have to be very critical. You have to be very sure on what are you going to decide later. Okay. So as I said, it is interrelated. So the first assessment is oral presentation, which is going to be conducted on week 7 and week 8. So week 7 is next week, and week 8 is after the mid-semester break, which is also after Raya. Okay, and then technical description writing will be on week 11. So technical description writing assessment will be based on topic 4, which is technical communication. So whatever that has been decided for oral presentation and approved after your presentation, those informations you will have to use that information and proceed with the technical description writing. But you only will start working on it after we start looking into the topic 4. Okay, and then technical specification report, the deadline is on week 14, which is the last week for this semester. And it will be based on topic 5, which is technical report. All right. What you have to include in that report will be based on the information from your oral presentation as well as your description writing. Right. Wait. So the general instruction for all the assessments are you are required to invent or improvise an item which can help the community to prevent from the outbreak of COVID-19. It is either to prevent you from getting COVID-19 or prevent the spread of COVID-19. So in groups of 5 members, you have to propose your idea and then produce an instruction manual of the object of your choice, and then write a technical specification report. So proposed idea is basically your first assessment, which is oral presentation, and then instruction manual. So this is the second assessment. And then object of the write a technical specification report. This one is the last assessment that you have to complete. All right, and then so basically by now you have to select an object. Okay, whether you want to select an existing object or you want to invent totally a new one, it is up to you. You can use your own creativity. I will show you one example that has been done by your senior from the previous semester after this. Okay, where was I just now? Okay. And the chosen object must be approved by your lecturer. So I have to approve your object first before you can use the information, use the idea that you have presented during your oral presentation to complete your instruction manual as well as technical specification report. Okay, so because we have 8 groups, right? So you are not supposed to be having the same object with other groups. So if later, for example, if later during your presentation, after you have done with your presentation and I inform you guys, so you cannot proceed with this object because other groups has used this idea or they have proceed with this idea. So you have to think of a new one. So in order to avoid for that kind of frustration, I think you guys would have to basically give a rough idea of what your object is in your WhatsApp group. So for example, if you were to group number 1, right? So let's say you decide on wanting to improve further the features of face mask, for example, right? So you list down that particular object in the WhatsApp group, and then the remaining groups will have to list their items also, their object also, so that there be no redundancy between you and your other groups. Okay? Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences of your idea or your proposal being rejected, and then you have to brainstorm again later for the next assessment. Okay, so basically when your when your idea is being rejected, meaning that there is nothing new in your presentation, you are basically not meeting the rubric lah later for the presentation. So there is a possibility for you not be getting higher marks for that. So that's why you have to be careful and basically list the name or the object that you want to improvise further from in for the proposal later. Okay, as I said, use your creativity to improvise the object by including at least 2 to 3 additional functions of the object, and then propose your idea through oral presentation. After your idea has been approved, then you will have to proceed with the technical description, which is you producing an instruction manual. And then after you have submitted your instruction manual and once we started looking into the last topic, then you will start working on the last assessment, which is technical specification report. Okay, so for oral presentation, you are required to first propose the object that you have chosen, and then propose the additional features of the object. And of course, when you add the additional features, it brings more advantages on using the object or the product in order to prevent the COVID-19, right? So you have to highlight that also. And then you may use a slideshow, brochure, poster, or any suitable visual aids during your presentation, which is around 15 minutes. So basically you have 15 minutes to convince me to approve your idea later during your presentation. Okay, Next one, after your idea has been approved, then you will have to proceed with technical description writing, which is the instruction manual. You will, in your instruction manual, you will have to provide a picture for that object, and you have to label each part of the object with brief description, provide the instruction on how to use or operate the object, and then your instruction manual must be divided into 3 parts, which are introduction, content, and conclusion. And it can be in any form, for example, brochure, infographic, poster, or pamphlet. So those who do not know what is instruction manual, I my example would be, if you have the experience of purchasing any object, for example, your smartphone. Kan, pernah tak you beli smartphone and then in that box it comes out with like a pamphlet with the instruction, with the illustration of the object, this is what part and what not. So that is the example of an instruction manual. Okay, so basically you will have to produce that kind of thing, and then the last one would be the report lah. Okay, so the last instruction for the assessment, which is technical specification report. How is it different between instruction manual and the report? So for the report, it will be more in depth. It will be focusing on you discussing the background, the backstory of your object, the existing features, and what is it, the additional features, and the advantages of the product, or the and if there is any terms or structures that was added. So basically this one, the name itself is a report, right? So when it comes to a report, it should be very thorough, very in-depth. What is the target market for your product, and how it is going to be functional for the target market and whatnot. Right? You may also use tables, lists, and graphic to describe the object. All right, and it must contain the usual main parts, which are introduction, description, and conclusion. So you don't have to worry, because when you are about to working on this assessment, all right, I will provide the guidance and some samples for you to refer to in order for you to complete the task later. All right, and you will also have to refer to the rubric to give you clear information and on the assessment, what is it that you have to include in your report and manual later. Okay, so are you guys clear so far what you have to do for the assessment? But basically for next week, you just have to focus on the oral presentation first. Okay, all right. So for oral presentation, by now, I guess you guys already have the basic of presentation, right? Because last semester you have conducted your own presentation where you discuss about how to survive in higher education, how to survive in online learning, how to manage your time and whatnot. All right. So for this semester's part of oral presentation, we will focus more on how you should convince, how you should deliver when you want to propose an idea. All right. So while briefing you through today's topic, which is oral presentation, I will try to relate it as much as I can with your assessment later. Okay, with that, if it is possible for you, I want you to open the document for Ashraf shared a gem file. Why, Ashraf, you shared gem file? Why do you want to share gem file? What is it that you posted there? Let's check. So allow me to get through. Ashraf, you shared the link but you cannot, you restrict access. Anyway, so those who are still here, if possible, I want you to open the document of no, assessment guidelines or instruction. So you will see this instruction for oral and as well as the rubric. Okay, so as I walk you through today's topic, I will also relate it on what you have to do for each part of the and how you can tackle the rubric later, so that you basically have a uh, clear view on what you are supposed to do for the oral presentation. Okay, oral presentation. Uh, as I said, we will focus more on proposal presentation. So proposal presentation are critical because it is an opportunity for you to highlight your interest in doing something. In this case, for you to propose your object that can help the community to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Okay, and you will have to convince me. Okay, and during this proposal presentation also, when I have any question that comes across my mind while listening to your presentation, this will also be an outlet for me to ask you question. And if you are able to answer my question and convince me with your answers, then it means that it is higher chance or higher possibility for your idea to be approved. Okay. And it is also during this part of presentation also, I might compare your presentation with other group presentation, so that I will see whether your is there any differences, or is there any new information provided by your group compared to others that has already presented before you. Okay, so basically when you present a proposal, you want to propose. Okay, the word propose itself, melamar, basically you want to melamar me to approve your object. Okay, next, what we'll discuss in this topic, the usual one, the planning part of your presentation, how you should structure your presentation, the visual aids, how does it help you in terms of convincing your panel when doing your proposal presentation, and then the language of your presentation, and then lastly, non-verbal communication, which I will focus more on the group dynamic and how you should work together as a group. Okay. Now, moving on to the first part of presentation. The first one, after you are given the task of presenting, you have to plan your presentation, right? So you have to be mindful of these four things. Okay, so the first step is for you to determine who is your audience. So in your case, for the oral presentation later, your audience would be the panel. Who is the panel? The lecturer. Who is the lecturer? Miss Lina. So you have to put in mind what are the criteria that Miss Lina is looking for when they are listening to your presentation. So you have to basically understand Miss Lina punya way of thinking, Miss Lina punya preference when you are doing your presentations. Hence, it is very important for you to be focused onto this lesson, because I might highlight what are the things that I look forward when listening to your presentation. Okay, so the second one, for you to select the topic. Okay, in this case, because the topic is given to you, right, for you to present an object, so that will be your topic, and you have to find the purpose. So your purpose for the presentation is to propose, to convince people. So you have to think, how am I going to deliver, how am I going to show that the object that I am going to propose later would suit into the situation that is given in the instruction, in the guidelines. Okay, so hence you must have knowledge of the situation or in the guideline or the topic. Okay, in this sense, COVID-19. So I guess by now you know so much about COVID-19. What is the current numbers? What is the current situation here in Malaysia? Perhaps globally also, you can include those information. So basically, after understanding the topic, after knowing what is it exactly that you have to do, you will have to start writing down all these informations. So which is also related with number 4, gathering the materials. Okay, and then number 3, determine the purpose. By determining the purpose of your presentation, it will um, set the direction of your presentation. Okay, for example, if it is uh, the purpose is to propose, to convince people who are listening to your presentation to agree with you, right? So of course, as I said, it will set the direction of your presentation. As in, you will know what kind of tone that you have to use. Meaning that you have to be very convincing. You have to be um, confident. All right. Although normal presentation also you have to be very confident, but because you want to propose, because you want to make sure people agree with you, all the more reason why you have to be very firm, very confident in delivering your points, in highlighting why you want people to agree with you, why you want Miss Lina to approve your idea. So maybe in that sense, you will have to put yourself into the shoes of a marketeer or a seller. Okay, imagine when you are listening to a salesman, okay, when they want to inform you guys about their product, of course they will highlight, dia sangat meyakinkan, cik belilah barang ni sangat bagus, ini, right? They will start to highlight, they will start to list out all these important features. Okay, so basically these are the things that you have to put into consideration in how you want your presentation to flow during later. Okay, and then start gathering the materials for your presentation. Okay, finding information based on the task requirement. This is where you look into the instruction situation given from the document. Okay, other than that, you will have to sift through the rubric. You look at the rubric, apa information, what are the informations that you must include in your presentation. So if you ask me, whenever I was given a task as a student, right, when I was a student, whenever I was given a task to do a presentation or to do an assignment, I will always go through the rubric first. Okay, and normally this kind of document is given by the lecturer before you actually start working on the task. So by looking at the rubric, okay, siapa yang tak tahu rubric tu apa, this is the rubric yang ada apa, markah and whatnot tu semua. Alright, so you can find it under the instruction. So I always go through the rubric so that I know what are the things that must be included in the assignment, what are the things must be included in the presentation, so that whenever your lecturer is listening to your presentation, oh, dia ada maklumat ni, dia terus nampak mana nak letak markah you. If you just plan your presentation, or if you just plan your assignment without referring to the rubric, the chances for you to miss all the important information to be included in your presentation or in your assessment is very high. So when your lecturer is marking your presentation or assessment, if they cannot find the information stated in the rubric, dia tak boleh bagi markah. Understand? So it is very crucial whenever you get the assessment, not only for English but for other courses as well. Okay, try if you are not given a rubric, try to ask the lecturer. Okay, madam, sir, do you have any rubric for me to refer to, so that I know what how should I what information should I gather. Okay, so as you can see, basically the materials that you have to uh, gather right now is what type of object that you want to do. Okay, and after you have decided on the object, okay, what are the improvement that you want to include in the object, and what are the additional features that you want to include, and perhaps how to use it. All right, so basically these are the four things that you have to do during the planning stage. Okay, next, after you have planned your presentation, then only you will start structuring your presentation. Okay, to create a stunning presentation, it is best for you to simplify your thoughts. Okay, you start with an outline of the topic and identify highlight which can be applied to whatever subject you plan on discussing. You can organize them into your introduction, your main content, and your conclusion. Make sure you do enough research to support your points. Okay. Um, so when you are structuring your presentation, it is similar to how you structure your when you are working for an essay. And again, perhaps you can refer back to the rubric. Sometimes it is mentioned, as you can see in the rubric provided for this oral presentation. The structure for your presentation is actually already provided. You must have introduction, you must have body or the content part of it, and then the conclusion. And what should you include in each part of this structure has also already been mentioned. Okay, so basically for the introduction part, of course, you will have to start with a greeting and introduce yourself with other group members, as well as if you want during your presentation, you want to represent yourself as some sort of a startup company, you can perhaps introduce yourself as a company. Okay, and then you proceed further with introducing your who are the members of your company, and then you highlight what is the purpose of your presentation. Basically, by now you should already know that your purpose is to propose an object for it to be approved, and then including the attention grabber. Okay, so attention grabber depends on the situation, depends on the purpose of your presentation. For last semester, right, your presentation focused on the topic was how to survive in higher education. So your attention grabber would be something like question that you ask your audience. Have you ever experienced the situation where you want to complete your assignment, but at the same time you also want to go to sleep, right? So you ask this kind of question that people can relate, especially the audience can relate themselves with. Okay, so in this situation, for the oral presentation, for the uh, uh, proposal presentation, okay, the question for the sample question for attention grabber has already been provided. So what's the problem that you are trying to solve? So basically, problem that you are trying to solve would be how to reduce the spread of COVID-19, right? What else? The question mentioned here. How are you addressing the problem today? Perhaps this type of question, you don't necessarily have to answer or ask this type of question, all three questions. You maybe select only one. For example, right? Maybe what is it, the current issues with COVID-19 that is happening here in Malaysia? The rising number of cases, right? We were doing so well last year. We almost hit zero. We did manage to hit 0 cases, 0 local cases. But then again, it spiked up, and until nowadays we have like 2,000 over cases, right? So maybe you can highlight this attention grabber, and then you have to also make sure this attention grabber relatable with the object that you want to um, uh, propose. For example, okay, COVID-19, right? And then soon there'll be Raya celebration, betul? So what is it about Raya that you know? During Raya, of course, people want to wear nice thing, kan? Pakai lawa-lawa, want to actually celebrate Raya and be able to go around and visit, kan? Not stuck at home like last year. So, what is the object that you can think of? Okay, for example, let's say I decide to do my idea is my object is face mask, for example. Okay, face mask is common, right? How can I further improve face mask? What are the additional features that I can include for that face mask? Okay, this idea that I have mentioned you cannot use for your presentation later. You have to think of something else. Okay, so my attention grabber would sound something like um, uh, with the current with the current situation, the rising numbers of COVID-19, of course, it is making us anxious, isn't it? And at the same time, we also want to celebrate Raya and want to look nice. Okay, so there are the current face mask that is available um, outside might not match your outfit that you have decided to that you have planned to wear for Raya. So we have come out with this Raya version of face mask, which will help you to reduce the risk of you getting COVID-19 and also reduce your possibility to spread the disease further. Okay, and then you highlight lah kenapa you decide on want to propose that object, what are the additional features. Maybe for the introduction you don't want to highlight that features yet, so you cakap lah during the introduction. So my friends later will highlight to you the additional features, okay, which will definitely be something that is very interesting and you would definitely like this idea. For example, you will cakap macam tu. So the group members later will highlight these features because it is part of your content, kan? So then only you focus on that. So okay, so that is how you can do your introduction. So moving on to your content. Okay, so you must have the main idea and then the details. So basically your main idea would be the object itself, right? What are the improvement made for the object, and for every improvement or every additional features that you have decided to include for the object, so you have to further elaborate. For example, just now I said my object is face mask, kan? So the first features would be the color changing fabric for the face masks. Kenapa? Why do I say color changing fabric? Because this feature is not yet available in the market, and also this feature is very important because nowadays people like to, especially for the disposable face mask, they don't have the, how is it, the responsible, there are some people they like to reuse their disposable mask, whereas they are not supposed to, because they don't know whether their mask is they are not sure whether their mask is contaminated or not. Okay, so by having these color changing features in our fabric, they will know whether their face mask is infected or has been contaminated by the germ or not. Okay, maybe from the outside as well as from the inside. because sometimes our breath itself contain germ, contain the apa tu virus tu kan. So people who like to reuse their disposable mask, they will just, maybe they think they are so kebal, they just gamble je pakai balik semula dia punya face mask tu. So you can say that okay, when they use, once they when it is not in use, the the fabric will be in this color. After it is being used, it will change into this color, ada bunga-bunga for example. Okay, so you can highlight, that is the first feature. The second feature would the look, for example. Okay, how is it different than the look? This is targeted for those who are wearing tudung or hijab. Okay, they, because their ears are not available outside, so they cannot hang their face mask. So having a loop uh, for the face mask is very important, so they don't have to so that their tudung will still be on point throughout the day during raya. For example, perempuan dia sangat particular about their tudung, right? Selagi tak on point dia, selagi itulah dia embus sampai atas tu, sampai tak cecah, tak langit ketujuh lah kot. Alright, so that is my feature lah that you cannot copy. Okay, so you have to think of something else. So these are the things that you will have to include later for your presentation, which is part of your content. As you can see in the rubric, indicate the specification of the object before and after improvisation, and then illustrate the function of the object clearly. Illustrate meaning that you must have the image for the object. Okay, and then explain the advantages of using the item convincingly. The word convincingly, dengan meyakinkan, you cakap pakailah ini, nescaya anda akan kelihatan cantik sepanjang hari di hari raya, for example. Because my product will target on the issue just now. My attention grabber was saying that nak lawa di hari raya while wearing the face mask kan, to prevent the COVID-19. So again, maybe you can, if you have if you can come up with a prototype, you can roughly demonstrate how to use your object during the presentation. Okay, and exhibit the originality of ideas. This one is basically you don't have to mention it, just by you presenting, then it will appear. Okay, this is the part where it is apa ni yang critical reading tu, underlying part of your presentation. Okay, so if you have all of these, you mentioned the before after improvisation, you have the illustration. Okay, the chances of you getting good marks is very high for your presentation later. All right, next one, conclusion. Restate the main ideas. Okay, basically you try to convince me, re-inform what are the feature, what is the object, what is the additional features that you have decided to include, and then why should I approve your object. Okay, all right, so that is the structure part of your presentation. Next one, visual aids. Okay, basically having a visual aid, it enhances understanding on the ideas, and it shows a professional touch and keep the presenter and audience on track during your presentation. And having a good visual aid will help to grab your audience attention and retain their attention also while presenting your proposal. So basically, later I will show you the sample of sample flow of the slide. Maybe you can use the sample as your guide while preparing for the presentation later. Besides using poster or besides using PowerPoint presentation, you can also use other online um, uh, online visual maker, for example Canva or PictoCharge. Okay, if you want, if you are creative enough, if you want to have like some sort of quick video of your product, you can also do so. All right. Basically, here you can be very creative, and the marks allocated for visual aid is 15 marks. That is a very big marks. Okay. So you have to put effort also in preparing your visual aids. All right. Next one is the language. Okay. Basically, your language should be accurate. It should be clear, concise, simple language should that you should use. You don't, especially you only have like 15 minutes to do your presentation, right? And 15 minutes divided by 5 presenters, so each group member only have how many minutes? 3 minutes. 3 minutes of airtime. Okay, within that 3 minutes of airtime, you will have to meet the task requirement for the group as well as the individual marks. For individual marks, the mark allocated is how many? 55. Banyak tu. Okay. So your delivery, your utterance, your intonation, your presentation style will be part of the things that are going to be evaluated during your presentation. So you have to be very mindful in that sense. You have to be very mindful. For language, the mark is 40. Kalau you do so many grammar error, okay, mispronounce of words, okay, you might lose a lot of marks there. So in order to avoid that, I would suggest you to um, use simple, clear, but at the same time accurate language. Okay. But then again, you have to be very convincing. Macam mana nak, how you have to figure out how to use simple language, but at the same time be very convincing. Right. So maybe later I will try to find some video examples on how you should do your proposal presentation. If possible, I will try to provide these materials in your Google Classroom later. Okay. So because it is only 3 minutes, just use simple language. Don't try to avoid bombastic fancy words that you yourself cannot pronounce. Okay, unless you are very sure on how to pronounce that big fancy words, then go ahead and use it. Okay, other than that, kalau if you yourself not sure on how to pronounce it, try to avoid that. Okay, because there are marks allocated for that particular part of your presentation. Okay, be mindful that your delivery and language is altogether 55 marks, which is 50% of your presentation marks. All right. Okay, now moving on to the next part, non-verbal communication skill. So non-verbal communication skill, this involves your body language, your eye contact, all right? So that is the reason why your camera should be functioning. So you have to make sure that on the day of your presentation, you would be ready. Your present, your appearance should be apa? Smart enough in, because you want to propose, right? You want to convince people. If you just wear t-shirt, I want to propose this. Imagine like I am someone who is going to buy your things, right? Tiba-tiba orang pakai t-shirt ni, saya jual ni, bagus ni cik. Macam, who I use? Like that. Okay, so I myself would not be convinced by your presentation. So that's why it is part of the things also that you have to put into consideration. Okay, and then eye contact during the presentation. Avoid reading so much from the slide or so much from the notes. Although you are behind the screen during your presentation, I can still figure out whether you are reading or whether you are spontaneously presenting your idea. Okay, the way your eyes move left to right and the intonation, I can tell whether or not you are reading. So try to avoid doing such a thing. Okay, intonation and voice projection, it must be very clear. It must be clear, and of course, when you are, you have to do your presentation convincingly, right? So your voice should be firm and confident, but at this and clear. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you have to yell lah. Okay, your voice should be like my voice right now. It is clear, right? Even if you don't wear your earphone, you can still hear me. And I can bet you that if you were to have your class outside my room, here in my office, you can still listen to me without having to put into your earphone or turn on your speaker. You can definitely, because my friends always say that she literally attend my lecture whenever I have an online class because my voice is that clear, that loud. But then again, I'm not yelling at all because it's just that my voice is naturally big. Okay. So try to make sure that your voice is be able to, I should be able to listen to your voice. Okay, in that sense also you might have to configure your mic also. Okay, so those who are having a mic problem on the day of the presentation, you have to make sure it is working perfectly. Okay, so next, as part of the non-verbal communication is effective teamwork. Okay, so developing good group dynamic is very important when you are working as a group. Build a good working relationship, whether assigned or you choose your own teammates, and you have to confront the conflict that is available while you are working together professionally by applying diplomacy, cooperation, and tolerance of different perspectives and approaches required by group works. Okay, so when you are working in a group, of course, you have to know the strengths and weaknesses of your group members. Okay, and by knowing this thing, and divide the role, divide the task based on the your group members' strength and weaknesses. Okay, based on my experience as a student, I always work when I was studying. I only have like for degree level. When I was doing my degree, my classmates was only 10 people for all courses, for all the subjects that I roll into for the semester. My classmates are only 10 people. Setiap kali pun 10 orang je. So when we do grouping, there be we will be working in a group of 3 to 4 people. So I will always be working with these two group members. Okay, so whenever we get the because there were only 10 of us, and we have like how many semester for degree? 8 semester. Okay, 8 semester nak menghadap kawan yang sama. Okay, like 4 years. To the point like macam penat lah tengok muka hang. Alright, but we have no choice, right? We have to learn to accept their strength and flaws lah. So by for the first semester, like you guys, last semester was your first semester, right? So for the first semester was like for us to test the water. Kita try lah kerja dengan siapa-siapa because these are all strangers that we don't know each other. So kita try je buat kerja sama-sama dulu. So after the first semester, I managed to come to a decision. So which people that I like to work with and which people that I don't like to work with. So it's not that I'm cutting ties lah. Bukanlah saya aku tak nak kerja dengan kau dah. Okay, but you basically saying if you don't if you no longer want to work with that person, you what I did was I will tell the person nicely said that by saying that how about this semester we'll try to work with other people and then get to know other people's group dynamics and whatnot. So I managed to get rid of this unwanted friend because I no longer want to work with that person. Okay, of course after that one semester saya macam trauma sangat bekerja dengan dia tu. Alright, so I no longer want to work with that person. So I've decided to work with a new one. And thankfully enough, the new group that I joined, I was happy to work with them. And we has been working together since second semester until we graduated. So by saying that, because we work so much together, we know already our strength and weaknesses. Dia orang ni special dia apa, orang ni pakar dia apa and whatnot. So every time when we get the assignment like this one, right, dapat je kerja, dapat je assignment, we will sit down together before we go home. Okay, after we finish our class, we would either stay at in the class or we would go lepak lah. Okay, because I was studying in Shah Alam last time, right? There were so many cafe or other restaurant that was nearby. So we would just stay there and we will discuss. We will delegate tasks first. Okay, but main point is for the content, we will have to brainstorm together. At least for this macam contoh, giving the examples of this assignment kan, how do we tackle it? So basically we know we have to come up with an object. Before we go back home, we must know already apa objek yang kita nak buat. Okay? After that, we will assign each other to think of a feature. Then we will give a timeline to each other. Alright. So we will see each other again maybe tomorrow. Because let's say the presentation is next week kan. We do not have that much of time. So tomorrow we will meet up again and then we will propose additional features because there were only 3 of us. Me will come up with one feature, another friend will come up with one feature, and then another friend will come up with one feature. And also because we were so used to work together, I already know what, after we have gathered all these materials, I already know what is it that I have to do. So my job would normally be in charge of the visual part. Okay, the slides, the flow of the presentation, how am I going to arrange all of these. Okay, I also decide on which outfit, how my friend should wear for the presentation. So because I am in charge of that. And another friend of mine, she will be in charge of the content part. Content part is in making sure that the content is meet the rubric or not, and whether it is grammatically correct, the sentences, okay, whether it is critical enough or not. And then another friend of mine, he is very good in with computer. So he will figure out if anything that, if let's say, okay, we want this, we want you to download this. Basically, me and my friend, we just order to him and then he will have to deliver this thing. But this is based on mutual understanding between you and your group members. You cannot be directing, oh kau buat ni, kau buat ni, kau buat ni, tapi you yourself are not doing, not functioning as a group members. So you cannot be behaving like that. Okay, so when you have this good flow of group dynamic, you will be happy working with each other, and it will um, uh, will be visible during your presentation. Your presentation will flow nicely, will will be move through, and your presentation will be smooth, and it is very easy to please your lecturer later. Okay. Next, the strength of the team is each individual member. The strength of each member is the team. So basically, kalau seorang one person is not functioning, it means that the whole team is not functioning. Okay, so one for all and all for one lah, basically. So that's why after today's lesson, what you have to do is complete the weekly tasks provided in your Google Classroom, and then start working on your preparing for your presentation. Okay, so the tasks that you have to complete, due is tomorrow, because the question is very simple. You just have to answer the MCQ question, and then after you're done answering, submit, and you are done with the weekly tasks. Okay, so with that being said, we are done with today's lesson. But before you leave, things that I want to highlight to you is your turn of presentation. Okay, so I have decided which group will go first, which group will go second, and so on and so forth, and which group will have to present on week 7, and which group will have to present on week 8. So those who are presenting on week 7, so basically next week you will have to come to class lah. Alright, you are during the assigned time. And then for those who are presenting on week 8, you don't have to come next week. Alright, and those who are presenting next week, you don't have to come after the semester break. So basically you can, those who are presenting next week, dia punya perks dia ialah dia boleh raya lama sikit. Okay. But those who are presenting next week, you kena start working on the task as soon as possible lah. Okay. But the chances for you, for your object to easily be approved is high compared to those who are presenting on week 8. Okay. So kejap, I will give you the list apa yang present bila. Yeah. My internet is suddenly very slow. Okay, you can refer to the chat box for the document of the terms. Okay, so before we wrap up for today, let's recap what have we learned so far. Kai? Where is Kai? Is Kai here?
Yes, ma'am.
What have we learned so far?
I learned the presentation need to dress well. I have to learn about the non-verbal and verbal communication. That's the main point for presentation and everything.
Non-verbal and verbal communication. Example of non-verbal communication? Sky? Example.